really lovely session. And I especially like the way Christine simplified action research. I mean, it's very intimidating to hear, research and us teachers having to do research in our classrooms, in order to develop ourselves, our students, and the environment, and so on. I mean, this story of, it's as simple as that. Why are students late? Let me give them a form, they fill it out, and they mention the reasons. That is action research. So, by giving us this example, maybe this is a good step for us to start with something very simple like that. And now you have your research and you're ready. You want to share the 8th step that, or maybe it was the 7th step that Christine added to her, steps of research. You have your action research, you have your results and everything, and you want to go and share it with the whole world. Now you want to go to TESOL conferences in Dubai this coming spring and talk to people about, what you found in your action research. You really, are interested and enthusiastic, and you want to share, this knowledge with everybody else to benefit. But now comes the question: how can you get your proposal accepted at the conference? So when you send your proposal to TESOL conferences, will they accept it? Is it good enough? And we're very, very lucky to have the very person in charge of accepting proposals at TESOL conferences, Dr. Melanie Gobert. And she will talk to us, guess about what? Getting your proposal accepted at a conference. This presentation would look at writing proposals and how to get our proposals accepted for a conference or a webinar event. A little bit about Dr. Melanie. Dr. Melanie has a PhD in English language, fellow working for the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta in Indonesia. Dr. Melanie teaches at University of Pattimura in Ambon. I don't know if I'm reading the names right, in Indonesia. She previously worked in Africa, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. She has been the proposals chair for TESOL Arabia, now TESOL Conferences, from 2019 up to present. So without further ado, over to Dr. Melanie.
Thank you, Mohammed, for that introduction. I'm just going to share my proposal, share my presentation with thanks to Dr. Christine Koum for sharing a previous proposal. So I had to do actually very little editing to get it up to speed, let us say. Okay. So it's about getting your proposal accepted and proposal writing. And of course, what kind of topics are encouraged? I have actually witnessed this. A lot of people are doing masters or doctorates, and they may choose to try to present something or put in a proposal that's not current, but it's a course that they have to cover in their coursework for their master's or doctorate. So I encourage you always to look and see what the theme is for the conference. We always have a theme, and try to make your conference title or your topic fit into the theme. So I believe this was our theme last year, if I'm not mistaken: the future of language education, adapting to a changing landscape. Sorry, I have a typo there. Again, you can present anything you want, but, rewrite your abstract so that it fits the conference, okay? So for this, any proposal needed to be related to the future of the TESOL profession and professional development. And we do accept proposals from all over the world. That's no issue. Currently, we have quite a few presenters from Uzbekistan attending the conference, but we always have presenters from other places. For example, Japan, USA. I'm sure we'll have some from Indonesia this year, Canada, UK. But again, try to make it relevant to our Gulf audience, because most of the people come from the Gulf. Okay, presentations that are accepted are usually ones that use interactive formats, not just you lecturing, not just you presenting your research, but doing some interactivity with the audience, as Christine has just demonstrated in her proposal, and you should also engage the audience. And for TESOL Arabia, we are not a research conference. So I have seen at some sessions we've had in the past about presenting at TESOL Arabia and getting your proposal accepted. I have seen some pure researchers attend this session and be very upset because their proposal was not accepted. Because if it is very technical and very much about research and nothing about classroom practice, our conference is actually a classroom practice conference. Okay, it's also very important to choose the correct type of proposal. Now, I hope I have edited these correctly to reflect the new ones. And I do think I'm missing one. I'm missing the one that says research-oriented presentation. So we do have that category as well. But the main category we have is practice-oriented. Workshops we now have, they last 60 minutes. And again, I mean, for me, normally what works best for our schedule is if we make it in 30-minute increments. But this means that normally there's 15 minutes to change between. If you have a workshop and it gets accepted, even though it says 60 minutes, the best thing you can do is plan for 55 minutes to give people time to walk to the next presentation. And by the same token, we introduced something maybe in 2019, maybe 2017 or 16, we introduced teaching tips, because sometimes teachers just have one thing that they want to show everybody, one website they're currently using, and they haven't done research or something like that. So a teaching tip is 30 minutes normally, and again, you know, it really means 25 minutes, so you give people 5 minutes to change and go to another presentation. Now, we have had remote presentations for the past few conferences, mostly because of the pandemic. We could only do a remote conference, as you were doing this webinar tonight. And Christine has said that best practices for remote presentations are no longer than 30 minutes. And sometimes it's 3 presentations for people tend to, because it's not live and it's not human-to-human interactive, people tend to have a lower attention span in remote presentations. But I should add here, we are not going to have further remote presentations in our main TESOL Arabia conference. But what we do plan to do is a few months after the conference have also like a webinar conference, so that we can also accommodate people that cannot travel for various reasons to UAE to attend the TESOL Arabia conference. And I can see I'm admitting people left, right, and center here as I have host controls. We must be having more and more people join us. We must be up to, I don't know how many, Mohammed, can you see?
Yes, I can.
How many people have joined now?
44.
44.
44. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. And I hope we have 44 attend if we do give a remote conference, let us say. Because one of the things I've taken the initiative to do is record the remote presentations. And this means TESOL Arabia has a YouTube channel, and we store those presentations on YouTube, and I announce it. The week that the presentation is released, and we actually have quite a large viewership for those remote Zoom presentations, especially if it's very topical, because YouTube is one of the first places where people go to buy information, right? To search for something, right? YouTube, I think it's owned by Google, right? So it also pops up and even tells you where in the video you need to look for the information you're trying to get. Poster sessions are 45 minutes. A poster session is more of an informal session, particularly for undergraduates or teachers in training, but for any kind of teacher, making a poster and then they share it for 45 minutes. as people walk by and ask questions about their presentations. Much more informal, supported way for people to present. But I think it's a challenge because in a current conference that I'm organizing, the organizer asked and thought there would be a lot of poster presentations and only one was submitted because you still actually have to make the poster, right? You have to cut out stuff and glue it on something, or you have to organize it and go have it printed. I think teachers find it easier to do presentations by PowerPoint. Okay, we also have panels that are 90 minutes. Usually, people have in the past proposed very good panels, but usually we organize this ourselves, and then we will have some of the invited speakers appear on the panel. But we have also asked people actually that we've seen their presentations, if their presentation fits, if they have some, excuse me, if they have some expertise on what the topic of the panel is, they can also be invited to present. Another popular topic that doesn't take very much work, and also it gives teachers an opportunity, you know, to discuss and get things off their chest and find out what other teachers are doing. So discussion groups are often very popular as well. Okay, very important to follow the proposal's guidelines, okay? Many proposals are rejected because they don't conform to the guidelines. The following sections are often problematic. We ask for a 250-word abstract, and I think the short abstract is 50 words, and many people just copy and paste from whatever master's paper or doctoral paper they're working on, and then part of their abstract is missing. Also, by the same token, for the title, we limit the length of the title to 7 words, and there's a reason why we do that. You know, if you have a 12-word title, and sometimes our invited speakers do as well, it doesn't fit on the program. Your words will be left out. So think of 7 words, 7 catchy words. The summary is the short abstract, 50 words. It should sound interesting and make people want to attend, even if they don't look at the full abstract. And the bio data, I think also we ask for 30 words only, not more. And I've just added this. If you need help writing these sections, the old presentation said if you need help writing these sections, consult the proposals chair. But I changed it to if you need help writing these sections, consult AI. This is a new way, and you're allowed to use AI this way, right? So if you write the rough draft of what you want to say, you can ask AI to write it for you. If your bio is 50 words and you cannot make it shorter, you can ask AI to reduce your bio to 30 words. But of course, please proofread it. Don't just copy paste. Okay, so here we are. The short abstract is 50 words max, and don't include citations in the 250-word one. There's no need to include references at the end. Sometimes you might want to include a citation. You should write in the third person. Many people write in the first person. It's probably better to write it in the third person. And this way we also don't know the gender. Spell out acronyms, okay? You know, in our field, some acronyms are pretty specific. We know if it's ESL, we know if it's EAP, we know if it's EFL, okay? But again, I think this one of IEP or IAP, I have begun to see that, and it has other meanings in different fields. So better to spell out acronyms the first time you use them. And this is the suggested format for the 250-word one. 1 or 2 general sentences relating to your theory and or research, okay? 1 or 2 sentences describing what you're going to do. And the last sentence should state what participants get out of the session. I always feel that this is very important. And I always tailor my own submission proposals to say, at the end of this session, presenters will leave with 3 AI tools they can use to help them plan their lessons or something like that. Here's a sample abstract. According to the testing literature, good multiple choice questions, MCQs, are the most difficult formats to develop. Although MCQs are still the most popular format, teachers lack proper training and experience in writing valid and reliable items. This workshop provides guidelines and hands-on experience in writing, critiquing, and analyzing multiple choice items. Now, as I use this from an older presentation, I ask myself, because I've been using AI to write my multiple choice test, but I see AI will often give me all B answers with a few A's. And I also see that there's not parallelism in the length of the answers. So, I mean, I encourage you to proofread and check carefully whatever AI produces, because if you don't, it's probably more likely that you will not be accepted. Okay, so good titles attract people to your session, and particularly with testing and assessment, often that's a very dry topic, so try to jazz it up so people will be interested. 7-word max, because that's all our software will allow because of space limitations and the way the program is made and printed from the platform. Make sure it matches your abstract. It should accurately reflect the content of your presentation. Your title should, sometimes titles are too trendy and people might choose it, but they might not really know what it's about. And some people may avoid going to your session because they don't know what it's going to be about based on the title. Try to make it eye-catching and interesting. Avoid gimmicky titles. And each part of a hyphenated or slashed words counts as one word. So we do often have titles that are incomplete when I send the concurrent sessions or the program around for presenters to check. And they say, there's a mistake on my title. And I say, no, there's not a mistake. You can only have 7 words in your title. And many people find it extremely challenging to reduce their title down to 7 words. But again, now that we have AI, I think it's a legitimate use to write a long title and ask AI to shorten it to 7 words as long as you check it. So what do you think would be a good title for the sample abstract we just looked at? I'll go back to the MCQs so you can see. What would be a good title for that? Any ideas? You can unmute your mic and feel free, or raise your hand.
I actually muted everybody so that we don't have any other accidents. So would you like me to allow them to unmute themselves?
Well, people can raise their hand and then you can unmute them, right?
Okay, yeah.
Anybody have an idea for a good title? I bet Christine does.
I just put it in the chat. MCQs made easy. 3 words.
MCQs made easy. Yeah, I was going to say writing MCQ questions, writing multiple choice questions. Something basic. And this is often something that teachers, we do teacher training and get higher qualifications, but often we don't even do one module in assessment or one course in assessment. And then when you start working, you find out it's 90% of what you do and all the students care about, basically. Okay, so the summary, this is the only thing that the reviewer sees. This is limited to 250 words. Again, the reviewing process is, time consuming. I think we have between 30 and 40 reviewers. People have to apply. There's a committee that selects them based on their experience presenting and publishing. And this is the document that they see to rank your presentation between 1 and 5. We try not to take any presentations that are lower than 4. So it's the sole document that the review team sees. They see your title, they see the short abstract, they see the long abstract, but it's a double-blind review. Well, it's not double-blind review, it's a blind review system. So they don't see your name and they don't see where you work. They don't see your biography. So they give you a score on your proposal, mostly based on the summary. So summary should have a clearly stated rationale, contain evidence of current practice and research. And this is really important because, you know, the reviewers can see if it's something not current in the field. And if you're not sure, I mean, even without having a subscription to TESOL Quarterly or the ELT Journal, you can look at their table of contents so you can see what's current. See if your proposal fits in, you know, current research, not research that was done 20 years ago and hasn't been updated. Okay, include supporting details and examples. And, you know, again, be careful. Let's see, careful, it should say carefully edited and proofread. For me, this is also a legitimate use of AI. We always had Grammarly. You could always pay someone to proofread your thesis or something like that before you submitted it for approval. And I think it's a legitimate use of AI when you have written something to ask AI to correct it and edit it for you, especially if it's over length, right? And also, you know, choose the correct type of presentation. If it's a discussion group, the whole proposal should be about the discussion and what participants should get out of it at the end. Okay, so bio data. I know it's really, really hard for Christine to limit hers to only 30 words. Just put your most recent stuff, I guess, where you work now. And this should be written in the third person. So look, here is mine. I think it's less than 30 words. Melanie Gobert, Ed D, is a fellow at the U.S. Embassy, Jakarta, at Universitas Pattimura. Information to include your present place of employment, the highest degree you received. You can put it in after your name. Any special posts you've held, any special things you have received, and you can also add your research or teaching interest. But there is information that should be left out. And sometimes I see teachers don't really know how to write a short biographical statement, and it will say things like, in her free time, she enjoys hiking and taking care of her cats. So this is not really relevant for an academic conference. Let's move on. Okay, factors affecting selection. An important factor for the proposals team is balance. Too many proposals on the same topic cannot all be accepted. We very, very rarely have this as an issue. And for something as current as AI and AI tools that teacher can use, we'll accept more than normal because this is what everybody is very interested in. Some other current topics that people are interested in: global Englishes, okay, translanguage, multilingualism, okay, so instead of being like bad because you speak 4 languages and none of them correctly, as they used to say in the old days, now we can celebrate you if you speak 3 or 4 languages. And of course, there's some interference and quote unquote mistakes, but these are the trends currently going on in our field. Okay, proposals that target certain demographics have a good chance of being selected. So here's an example. There is a lack of good presentation content. There is a lack of good presentation content at the primary and secondary school level. I was happy to leave that in. We've had this going on historically for a long time, but if you actually see what's happening, as predicted by the British Council, English is being pushed lower and lower into the K12 curriculum. This is why Mohammed has founded the SIG, and we need good content from these groups to present to each other. A major complaint that we have at the conference is, I'm a K12 teacher and there was nothing useful for me. And we know it is a different environment, just like children and adults are different for many things legally. It is very different also to teach children and adults. Well-written proposal summaries have a better chance of being accepted than poorly written ones. Again, AI can help you nowadays for that. You can write your own, and then you can ask AI to tidy up for you and correct it. There's nothing wrong with that, doing that. Being a no-show at a prior conference, this also happens to us. There's always a lot of complaints because when we have to stop adding or changing the program 2 or 3 days before the conference because we cannot update the system statically, I think is the word, dynamically. And then, people will actually, we don't schedule people on the program until they have registered for the conference. But we do have people who register for the conference and then there are no shows. Now, life happens when you have, 300 people concurrently presenting at a conference taking place over 3 days and 1 weekend. For example, last year we had this horrible flooding at the Dubai airport. Many people's planes were canceled. They just could not make it. This is a valid reason, and people do get sick. They do have an emergency come up that prevents them from attending. But there's still quite a few people who put in a proposal, who pay the registration fee, and still don't show up to present. And, this is noted, of course, it becomes common. Okay, factors disqualifying a proposal, it promotes commercial interest. I'm sure none of this applies to you, but we have had publishers in the past, they try to sneak in, not as a commercial presentation, not paying any fees for having an exhibition stand, but they try to sneak in a proposal that is really about selling their books or their websites and platforms. It doesn't conform to the proposal guidelines. Again, the guidelines are there. It's very, very detailed on the system. I think Christine has worked extensively before I became the program chair to ensure what's there and what's good. And, still people just copy paste something maybe from another abstract that they sent to a publication because they sent their article, they sent an article to a journal or something like that, and then they just copy paste that. Okay, the proposals need to be received before the deadline. I cannot guarantee that anybody gets to present at the conference if they don't send their proposal on time. And the reason we have a deadline is for the reviewers to be able to review the proposals and also for people to be able to avail themselves of the early bird deadline if they're presenters, which is a less expensive option for presenting. Okay, this has happened. Also, the same proposal is submitted more than once under different titles. This is often witnessed, and of course, both proposals could be refused. And this is something else that has come up as well recently. The same proposal is submitted every year under different titles. And this also can be obvious because whatever the topic or theme is, it can be so dated because there are things that are quite old in our field now. Okay, let's see. Good proposal. What the review team says. Identify the anticipated outcomes. So your last couple of sentences should always be, attendees will leave with 3 ways that they can use AI with students to improve the quality of their written work. Relate theory to practice always. As I said before, we are not a research conference. We are a practical-oriented conference. They should address issues of current, local, and global relevance. Things that are happening in the English language teaching field are usually happening all over the world, not just in one place. A current big theme is, inclusivity, accessibility, and diversity. I'm sure you've heard those terms. They're happening all over the world. It's good also to anchor your proposal in a historical context. good idea to anchor something like multilingualism in the historical context, because in the old days, when I did my qualifications for teaching English as a second language, it was the beginning of CLT, communicative language teaching, and we had the term code switching thrown at us all the time, which is rather negative compared to translanguaging, where learners can use all of their linguistic resources to communicate today, or English-only classrooms. Are not too narrowly focused. This also has to do with research. Draw on research theory and practice from one or more disciplines. Okay, cross-discipline is always very good. And are well-written and free of typos and grammar mistakes. This is probably one of the greatest uses of AI that there is, because I know in the business world, before, our students would keep using Grammarly after they graduated. They were so embarrassed about the quality of their writing. If they had to send emails, they refused to send them. This is a great way to save a lot of people any embarrassment about their writing or mistakes that they make. And it doesn't mean there's not mistakes. I made some mistakes when I was working on this presentation. I made a few typos. I should have put the presentation in AI, I admit it. Okay, this is my last slide, because Fatih is going to address giving good presentations, but I could not remove this slide because in my experience, when I first started presenting, I did this. I didn't just make the presentation. I think I presented every single thing I did for my master's. I presented everything that I did for my doctorate, but at the beginning, especially, I would literally practice in a classroom at my school by myself 2 or 3 times before I presented. So it's a good way to become a very good presenter. Practice with your PowerPoint and the equipment you have in your room, and make sure you time it, okay? Great if you can have a small audience from your college or university. Videotape yourself if possible. If you have a friend, you can see then if you have nervous movements. Some people have nervous movements like walking, how can I say that? Rocking from side to side, or rocking back and forth when they present. So this is a good way to see that you're doing that and not do it. Do a trial run at a PD session or a small conference. I certainly recommend this. Prepare enough handouts. It says it's the only thing you have control of. I mean, usually now we're not handing out a lot of paper, and I don't think TESOL Arabia has ever duplicated handouts, and people sort of like expect us to do it. And we say, no, if you're going to use handouts, you have to bring your own, and you have to bring enough. We recommend, 25 to 30. But of course, nowadays, you can also find ways to share your presentation or share whatever you want to share with the people without using paper and without wasting paper, easily by Google Docs, right? Or easily by WhatsApp or email, of course. When you arrive at the conference, I mean, this is what people should do. Best practice. Go find your room where it is. Go see what's in it. Some rooms aren't as well equipped as others. And it says here, have phone numbers or know who to contact for technical problems, right? Usually we have IT around helping people. And of course, Fatih is usually at the front desk. Now, I think that's all for me. There I have my email if you would like a copy of this presentation. And you can also follow me on Instagram if you like. And I do respond to messages that I get on Instagram. It's dive_Mimi. It's Mimi because that's what my grandchildren call me. Okay, thank you very much. Any questions?
I think they can write the questions in the chat box, and you can collectively answer the questions at the end of the whole event, if that's okay.
I will probably let Fatih and Christine answer the questions because, as you know, I'm far away in Indonesia. It's getting quite late for me. So I will
Oh,
probably
thank you
say,
very much for that. Maybe people don't know, but Dr. Melanie is in Indonesia, and it's almost midnight there. But we pushed her and we said, listen, you've got to be with us in this. So thank you very, very much for that. It's a
it was my
wonderful
pleasure.
presentation. Yes, go ahead.
My pleasure to attend. I'm stopping sharing now.
Right.
And thank you for understanding. Yes, I mean, technology is great. I'm able to attend the presentation over in UAE and Saudi Arabia, but unfortunately, no one cares about the time difference. Otherwise, we'd all have the same time all across the world, right?